Okay, sir. Normally, we start an episode with a joke or some kind of silly banter that has nothing to do with anything, but it's kind of, light and get us started. Today, we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to give you a dilemma, a moral dilemma.
Okay.
Okay? A little to get that brain going so you can be extra sharp for the rest of the episode. Okay?
We can
Here's the situation. Everyone in the world has to take a private vote by pressing a red or blue button. If more than 50% of people press the blue button, everyone survives. If less than 50% of the people press the blue button, only people who press the red button survive. Which button would you press?
Well, so just to clarify the rules here, if you press the red button, if less than 50% of people press the blue button, everyone who pressed the red button still survives. But if more than 50%, right? So I mean,
yes.
the answer is obviously press the red button because you're securing your life regardless.
I think that's where the moral dilemma comes in. Yes.
But yes, and of course the moral dilemma is if I do that, then I'm contributing to the condemnation of everyone who pressed the blue button, possibly.
Right.
So,
but if you press blue and enough people press blue, then everybody gets out of it and we're good. So it's a matter of it's a self-preservation over I guess collective survival.
But wait, it's also about trust in the society you live in as well. Do you trust that enough people would do that? And my answer is a resounding no. So for the sake not just of myself but of all the red button pressers, I would choose the red button.
I'm going blue just because I would have major survivor's guilt otherwise, and I don't value my own life that much anyway. So roll the dice, have fun with it. I'm going blue.
Fair enough.
All right.
Well, welcome today's episode. Welcome, guys, to today's episode of the Value Added Podcast. My name is Zach. I'm one of the hosts here. As you can see on the screen, Brian's face is unfortunately frozen. Hopefully, that will resolve itself here in a moment. Yep, there we go. It looks like it resolved. And Brian,
hold on. It's funny you say that because while you said that, you were.
I was frozen too. Okay, all right, nice. Well,
not two. I was not frozen. You were.
Okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying. But
okay.
Yes, so Brian's here. I'm here. We're both the hosts of the Value Added Podcast. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about strange, weird, bizarre hobbies that exist, and we're going to be discussing them, presenting them, and possibly making fun of them. Okay, possibly. But it should be a very nice episode. And look, let me tell you this before we get into the examples, right? If you happen to enjoy any of these hobbies, just know that we don't approve. I'm kidding. You can do what you want to do. But just know that it's for some people, it could be seen as a strange hobby to have. And obviously, this is not in any way, shape, or form an exhaustive list. There are many strange, odd, weird hobbies. For example, Brian, like you were talking about before, there's people collect a lot of different things. So like collecting hobbies that involve collecting, you could collect rocks, you can collect sticks, you can collect cards, you can collect cars. People collect all kinds of things. Collecting in and of itself can be strange depending on what it is you're collecting, right?
Right. And the purpose for the collecting.
Right. So, yeah, we're just going to get into some examples. If you're offended, make sure you reach out to us at valueadded.zb@gmail.com and let us know just how offended you are. All right.
Yes, we love hearing about people being offended.
Yes. Without further ado, there's one more thing I want to let you guys know about before we get started, and that is, let's see here. As of the end of February 2026, there are approximately 6.88 million open jobs in the United States. Okay, so for any of you who are perhaps spending more time than you should on some of these hobbies, just remember there are lots of jobs waiting for you to take advantage of.
And a quick PSA, which I wasn't going to mention, but since you incorporated that kind of into your intro there, a lot of this is going to seem and sound like we're judging the people for the hobby. We're judging the hobby itself, and we're judging the people who have the hobby. You're not entirely wrong about that, but two things can be true simultaneously. So, to Zach's point, what he said before, at no point are we advocating to not do those things. Like, you do whatever you want, it's totally fine. But, and I guess this goes for really anything when it comes to judgment, just understand that you're being most likely judged by Zach and I, and possibly other people. And that really goes with anything that can be judged, is in most cases, people are probably saying, you do what you want. It's not really it doesn't matter to me one way or the other. But if I see you doing it or know that you do it, I'm just going to judge you. And now you have to decide whether or not that's important.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, with all those PSAs out of the way, Brian, are you ready to jump into some of the weird hobbies that we have on our list today?
Let's do some silly hobbies.
Also, I'm sorry, one more thing about the whole housekeeping stuff. There is at least one in here in particular that I will be telling you guys not to do and condemning it very, very strongly. And I'll tell you why when we get there.
I already know what it is.
Do you? I wonder if you... Well, let's see if you can guess it. Let's see if you can guess it when we get there. All right.
Okay.
So the first one we're going to start off with, all right, it's a little hobby, and I'll give you some context here around why people do this, right? So you guys have probably heard of cave diving, okay? And cave diving is just you're climbing around, you're climbing through rocks, you're going into crevices, yada yada, you're discovering things. There's kind of the sense of exploration, the sense of danger. There's a lot of reasons why people do it, but some people take that hobby and interest to the next level. And let me introduce you guys to underwater cave diving, okay? This is underwater caves, completely submerged in water. People will go into these caves with oxygen tanks, tethers, that sort of thing. They'll crawl through these really tight spaces underwater, trying to discover what's on the other side. So, this ultimately, this hobby, I have a lot to say about this hobby, but one thing it makes me think of is, why did the chicken cross the road? Was there an actually good reason for the chicken to cross the road? Was it just curiosity? You guys have heard curiosity kills the cat. Maybe what's on the other side of that underwater cave isn't worth you sacrificing your life, but who am I to say, right? Let me get your thoughts on this one, Brian, before I say anything more mean about it.
Okay, right off the bat, we have a little bit of disagreement. I don't consider this a silly hobby.
Okay.
I don't, and especially because of the point that you made towards the end of that when you gave the reason. Because one of the main criteria I have for whether or not something is a silly hobby is why are you doing it? What is the purpose of doing it? Now, sometimes there are different reasons for a hobby, and each person has a different reason. And for one person, I'll say it's not silly because you're doing it for this reason, and somebody else is saying, well, if that's the reason, then it's stupid. And other people or other hobbies, there's really only one reason you could be doing it. This one is the former. There's multiple reasons you could do it. If you're doing it to try and discover something, even if it's not necessarily for like the purpose of like this broadcast as everybody else, like if you're working, you're paid to do it and then you have to report your findings, even if it's not that, even if you just have some kind of scientific curiosity about what's on the other side and you want to just go into it yourself instead of doing what everyone else does about almost anything, which is let somebody else do the work and then pretend that you know all the information. They're doing it themselves. So, it's very risky. There's a lot of danger involved, but they're willing to do it. So I actually have a lot of respect for people who do this.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with your perspective of the importance that you can have, the importance that can be, I guess, gained, or the knowledge we can gain, the things that are beneficial for this hobby, right? The reason I included on this list and for me, I guess the whole silly hobby also includes things that are illogical. So if we say, for example, the danger that you're putting yourself in is more significant than any potential discovery of a new cave underground could be as a reward, that is a compelling argument to me personally. Also probably to everyone else who's claustrophobic to begin with. If you guys ever seen these videos, they're insane to watch. Cool. It's cool. And, these guys are very brave, the men and women, of course. These are very brave people, and they're doing something pretty cool. Still, I would categorize it as weird because that's a risk I would not be willing to take.
I mean, yeah, but I think you can't simultaneously call it cool and silly or weird.
What? Because you saying weird can't be cool?
No, cool. No, cool. Like weird can be cool. Okay. Yes, but
just making sure.
But in this but in this context, the point of the weirdness and the silliness is to like judge it and say that there's really no point in doing it. That's kind of the point of this whole thing. So in this case, if a hobby is cool to do or to see somebody else do, I don't know if it qualifies, but maybe we're splitting.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what we'll do here is we will move on to the next one. The next one is not as this definitely not as dangerous. We're gonna lower the danger level a little bit, and we're gonna turn our eyes to the sky. Okay, we're gonna do some bird watching. All right, we're gonna go on a park bench in a nice park. It's fall. The leaves are falling. It looks beautiful outside. There's birds flapping in the sky. We're gonna watch those birds. We're gonna take a piece of paper out. We're gonna notate down the color of the bird, what direction it's flying, how many family members it has or doesn't have. If it's missing a father in the home, those kind of things, right? Basic bird watching stuff. Bird watching. Well, I'll let you spearhead this one. What are your thoughts on this before I get into my opinions of it?
Well, this one to me is a silly hobby, but the main question I would ask is probably the main question I would ask for a lot of them, but especially for this one is why? Why are you bird watching? What are you accomplishing? Is it for some kind of scientific curiosity? But even if you have that scientific curiosity, what does that scientific curiosity, if you find answers to these things, how does that benefit you or society? If you know about the different types of birds and what they do, what potential benefit would that have? Maybe the fact that I don't know this proves how little I know about birds, and maybe if I did some bird watching, I would know this, and then that's how it would work. But I can't really see a benefit. That's not to say a negative, but I can't really see a benefit to knowing all these things about, when you see them flying and you document all these different things that they do, and now by the end of it, you're an expert on birds. Okay, great. Which means what? So that, because of that hard question to answer, that's why I qualified as.
It's interesting. It's interesting to see how you break it down. If to me, the benefits that I would think of for bird watching is, it's a scientific discovery. What can we glean from bird watching? Well, if it's important for agriculture, if you're a farmer and you have to know what kind of birds are around, whether they are the type of birds that are going to go after your crops or not, what these birds tend to go after versus what they don't tend to go after. So kind of like the whole idea of when they came up with scarecrows, keeping away crows with this straw figurine of a human, or maybe have it move back and forth every now and again to kind of scare off the crows because they're scared of movement. Well, the bird watching obviously gave people the idea of, hey, if we put in the scarecrow, we'll keep them off the crops. But I guess it's probably more than that. There's probably plenty of reasons, like migration patterns, things like that, especially for climate folks. I was going to say activists, but you don't have to be an activist. Climate researchers, I guess. And if they're doing studies on migration patterns, whether they're trying to make some hypothesis about global warming or global cooling or whatever it may be, and they're talking about migration patterns as a possible justification or whatever, a supporting argument towards their point. Those are some ideas that I have as to why that bird watching might be a thing. But again, everything I just mentioned is more in the professional sense. The thing about what I'm talking about on this list mostly has to do with the people who do these things as a hobby. So if you're just watching birds as a hobby, I would tend to agree that it's kind of a waste of time. I mean, there's not a lot you're gonna get from watching birds. But I mean, if that's what you're happy with, more power to you, I suppose.
That was a very important distinction you made that I hope that everyone makes themselves while they're deciding these on their own or while they're analyzing our judgments on it. The fact that it's a hobby. Because if you're doing things for the sake of you're doing bird watching and then you report the information and then it goes into some kind of official textbook or something like that, and now other people are able to know about these birds, which they can then use for their own benefit, and it all started from your watching, then it's not a hobby. Then it's kind of a job.
Yeah, in a sense.
You might enjoy it. Yeah, you might enjoy it, and some people are lucky enough to get paid to do something that they would consider a hobby anyway. But in that case, it's not really a hobby. A hobby is exactly what it is. You're not getting paid for it. You're, something you do on the side, something you do for fun, something you do to wind down, something you do to relax yourself, all these different things. So in that context, I would say, other than it relaxes you, but there's other ways I can think to relax yourself other than just watching birds fly around. So
fair enough. Well, yes. I'll move on to the next one just to make sure that we have enough time to cover all these today. The next one we're gonna touch on is, and let me see. You might give me pushback on this one too, right? We're gonna go to wet specimen collecting. Okay, now for you guys who don't know what wet specimen collecting is, basically you'll find something typically dead. Hopefully, I say with air quotes, something dead, and you're going to preserve it in a jar, typically with formaldehyde or some other kind of chemical, maybe alcohol or vinegar or something, where you're preserving the dead body parts of various creatures, animals, or even human body parts or something. You see this in horror movies all the time. It's, to me, a very disturbing type of collection. It does not make me feel very comfortable. And therefore, I find it really weird. Now, granted, depending on how you decide to approach this, Brian, there are scientific reasons why someone might be doing wet specimen collecting. But I'm here to tell you today that that's not acceptable. So, over to you.
Yeah, I think in that case, if they're doing it for, they work for some kind of lab and they're doing it, then it doesn't qualify as a hobby at that point.
Exactly.
So sometimes when you don't know a lot about a person, or even if you do, there are certain things that you observe that automatically tips the scales in their favor or against them. And if I knew somebody, regardless of how long I knew them or how well I knew them, and then I suddenly went to their house or something, and then I saw a bunch of jars of dead specimens just there, and turned out that I was like, oh yeah, it's just a hobby of mine. I think I would hightail the fuck out of there
because you don't want to end up in that jar, do you?
Right, and it's very possible that it's a harmless thing for them. They're harmless. There's a whole reason behind it that doesn't make that person to be that disturbing or creepy or anything like that. But at that point, it won't be a risk I'm willing to take. So this doesn't qualify as a silly hobby. This qualifies as disturbing. But I'm still putting it in the reject pile, so there you go.
Fair enough. Well, since you brought it up, Brian, I have something to show you here. I'm kidding. It's my cup. It's just my cup. The only wet specimen is my drink today. There it is. But yeah, that's a really interesting, odd hobby to have. It doesn't make you a serial killer. It's kind of like not all people who drive cars get in crashes, but only people who drive cars get in car crashes, right? It's one of those type of situations. It's not that because you do wet specimen collecting, you're a serial killer. It's just, all serial killers do this.
Only serial killers would do something like that. Okay.
Anyway, I know that's not true. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. For all the wet specimen collectors out there, my deepest apologies from the value.
And the serial killers.
All right, Brian. Let's lighten the mood. Okay? Have you heard of fingerboarding? Have you heard of this?
I have not. It sounds some kind of...
No. You see, I thought the same when I first heard it. But I assume you're familiar with things like longboarding, skateboarding. I think wakeboarding is another one. Surfing is obviously another one. So all of those things involve a full body active exercise in a sense. It's your full body coordination, balance. You're on the ground, you're on the gravel, you're on the water, whatever. Fingerboarding is exactly the same, except it's just your fingers. You have a tiny skateboard and your fingers go on it, kind of like you're playing a toy, and you do tricks with the skateboard. Apparently, this is so big that there are actually fingerboarding competitions in certain places where everyone gets together and there's tents and hot dog stands and everything else, and they all get together and do this fingerboarding competition.
This sounds made up.
No, it's not. I swear to God. I swear to God.
I'm not saying you are making it up. I'm just saying it sounds made up.
So when I learned about this one was interesting to say the least. I think my kids would enjoy it. But when I saw the video of people doing this activity at the event, there was no children there. So just kind of makes me think it's a little odd. It's a little odd, okay? And what do you think, Brian? What are your thoughts?
So far, this is the most obvious example of silly hobby. Most obvious one. And it also demonstrates how far we have come as a society regarding our physical capabilities on one side, and the other side you can say how lazy we have become as a society. That with all the different options that you said at the beginning for boarding, for doing that kind of thing, if you like that kind of extreme sport, especially when it's individual, where you don't need a ton of gear, you don't need a ton, you don't need anyone else to practice, you kind of can just do it yourself, that kind of thing. The people decided, I want to do something like that, but the idea of like my whole body moving and possibly injuring myself a little bit and doing a flip and expending all the energy. No. But the fingers, yeah. Now I'll have the strongest fingers in the West. Like it'll be, my fingers will be totally in shape. It'll be like really buff for those two fingers. But everything else, I'm just gonna be a lard. So yeah, it would be a challenge to extend to somebody who doesn't want to be judgmental is to show them this and then say, okay, now don't judge the people who do it and see how they do it.
Man. I really got to give, hats off. I would take it off, but I want to show everyone my bald head to you for being able to get through that segment without laughing or breaking. Man, all this fingering conversation is it's too funny for me, man.
At least one of us is mature.
Yeah, one of us is. And so let's take a more mature step away from the fingerboarding here because we've established that's a weird hobby. And I'll give you another one. Similar to wet specimen collecting, except it's not wet and there's no specimens. This would be stamp collecting, okay, collecting stamps. Brian, as the one who presented this idea, I would like you to present this to me so I can get your opinion on it.
I don't know a lot about this one, so I genuinely don't get, again, why you're collecting the stamps. If you collect something that has monetary value, and then you wait, like people are now collecting pennies because the pennies are going to go away, and then by the time it goes away, the idea is that it's going to have such more value eventually, so then they can sell it. So there's something like that. But people who collect stamps, from what I understand, don't plan on selling their collection. They don't plan on selling their stamp or anything like that. They just have a scrapbook with these stamps in the book. Okay, so now you have a whole collection of different types of stamps. What are you going to do with the stamp? Like, what do you do with the stamps? Even if you don't sell it, if you collect something that has some kind of purpose, like collecting cars eventually, assuming that there's an engine in it and all that, has a purpose that you can utilize even if you don't want to, like, even if your goal is not to use the car, if you have to, you can. What advantage do you have that now it's like, well, in a pinch, in an emergency, I have all these stamps on hand? Like, I don't really see what the point of it is. And other than the reasons that you can come up with a hobby, it's relaxing, it winds you down, things like that, but do a puzzle. Like, I don't get why you have to collect stamps.
So, Brian, I think you're missing a very important piece of the puzzle here, which is imagine that you have 5,000 envelopes you need to send out, right? Now you have the stamps to do so. Obviously, that's a joke. I think that this is in the same vein with a lot of other collections. I think it more has to do with like a sense of community or personal interest that you have in collecting the stamps. Pokemon cards were, I think, baseball cards, Pokemon cards, all of those card collecting hobbies. You know what I'm talking about, right, Brian? Coin collecting, for example. I mean, a lot, and with the coin collecting, I think you might have a different opinion because that has obviously it's money, so obviously it has a value on its face. But I think a lot of these just have to do with the community and a sense of like a belonging, I guess. And it's the only interesting thing I could say, if it's something you do by yourself, maybe you could use it as a way of an icebreaker. You bring some friends around. Hey, let me come into my basement. Let me show you my stamp collection. Right? Typical pickup lines that you would use at a bar.
Of course. Hello, my name is Brian. I'm a stamp collector.
Yes.
Where you going?
You going to the bathroom? Oh, you going to go get the stamps? Okay, I got you.
Okay. All right. So I'll wait here. No problem.
Anyway, back to the point. Stamp collecting is, I think it's kind of in the same vein with the other ones. It's a bit of a useless hobby. And I don't really want to sound too mean in this episode, where I'm just kind of shitting on everyone's hobbies for no reason. If you collect stamps, that's fine. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. Just remember there are, 600 and... anyway, you get the point. There's a lot of open jobs out there for you guys to kill some of that extra time. So, all right, ready to move on from stamps. And we're blowing through these pretty quick.
We are, but maybe my segment will run us deep. Who knows?
Well, hold on tight for that one. Let's go to let's see here. Oh, I'm gonna save that one for after because that one's real. Let's slow it down, and by slow it down I mean speed it up because we're going to train watching. Okay, these trains go super fast. They go right past you. It's really quick, but these train watchers, they don't miss a beat. Okay, they're able to see what's the color of the train, how many wheels it has, the engine type, the numbers on the train. They're able to see all this information almost at a glance, it seems like, because of how fast these trains go. I learned about this one. I actually did not know that train watching was a thing. And I learned about this one, and I realized that people would sit on benches and just track routes, track trains all day long. And again, there was 600, whatever. You get the point. There's a lot of jobs that are available, and there might even be jobs for, for example, like logistics, jobs in logistics for moving product around, moving trains around, that kind of thing. So there could be even work that you could do if this is something that really interests you. Routing, even like an air traffic control. If you're really good at routing, that might be an option for you as well. I'm sure there's some of those jobs open right now. So there are options you can do to kind of take this hobby into a productive way, into a productive direction. But I think that if you're just scrapbooking train routes all day long for yourself, that's a bit odd. What are your thoughts, Brian?
Well, yeah, that's the main thing, but my questions are going to go beyond just what is the point, because that's kind of what you were getting at just there. I would even go so far as like, because from what I know, which is not a lot about trains, but the train tracks that a train are on are usually like go through the middle of nowhere. They're not in the middle of like a downtown of a big city. Mm-hmm. So where are you positioning yourself to watch this train at full speed? I mean, because if you go to the station itself, you can do that fine. But now the train is stationary. Is that a different type of watching? If it's stationary, well, then you can get the color, you can get the model and all that, how many people it holds, whatever. But if your goal is to like watch it like at its peak speed, going around the track, you got to position yourself somewhere to watch it. And a lot of times they go through like the middle of the country. There's nothing around. So where are you when this happens? That's a question I'm asking legitimately because I'm kind of fascinated by it. Are you just like in a tree somewhere, just like with binoculars watching through it? Are you like in some kind of aircraft that you can see it from below? Are you on a boat? And because sometimes it's near water. Like, where are you where you can watch this?
I actually like that train of thought, and of course, when you were saying that the part about being in a tree, no, I do.
You didn't do that purposely?
I didn't do that purposely. I swear.
Oh
I did not do that purposely. I just caught it.
That was so obvious. That was just an obvious one. I thought you did it purposely.
Yeah, that was really good. No, when you were talking about the hiding in a tree, I imagined in my head it was some kind of Australian guy saying he has to hide from the train as to not spook it or run away, something like that.
Like Steve Irwin.
It's like a Steve Irwin situation. That'd be really funny. But I think I have an answer to your question, and the answer is. It depends on what they're doing. I think that they probably either camp out near tracks. They might be on boats, like you said. They might be at train stations if they're trying to get like a slower day and getting more details, like how many people get on or get off. It's almost odd if they're actually counting every person getting on and off the train.
Yeah.
Nothing illegal about it necessarily, but just a bit odd, I would say.
Well, and the ones that I talked about that go through like the country and everything, those are probably more like freight trains that are carrying cargo or something, as opposed to passengers. But even the one with passengers, as you go from one destination to another, like again, unless you have some kind of like balcony apartment that overlooks the train tracks, but even then, as for like what a second and a half as it flies by you, and it's like a blur at that point. So I don't really know. Like, I don't know the logistics of this train watching. Because to me, when it's stationary, that's not worth it as a hobby. Because you can just, like, Google that stuff. Like, on the train station's, like, a website or something. In terms of, like, how much each train holds. Or go on it once and examine it that way. But if it's going fast, I get why you might want to watch that. But you're not going to see anything because it's going so fast. So I don't really know.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think you're thinking about it more of like the spectacle rather than the academic. I would hate to say, maybe that's maybe they're trying to discover something or verify something that they're not able to get online. Sort of like the whole, if you guys remember our episode where we had a very in-depth episode about the flat Earth, where I presented the truth to you guys on April 1st or around then. It wasn't on April 1st. Close enough. In any case, where's it going with this? I forgot. My train has derailed. Okay, it was going straight, and then it went into a tunnel, and it just didn't come out. Right? It didn't come out the other end. Yes, yeah, that one was on purpose. Okay. But listen, I will try to get my train back on track, and we will be right back after this short break.
Before I get into my real segment for today, a bonus edition of things that piss me off but shouldn't is Zach's tireless puns. I realized that I started this one today by mentioning one that he wasn't even doing on purpose, but then he, to be typical Zach, he had to take the ball and run with it, and then go above and beyond and be super obnoxious. So that's the bonus one. But what are we doing today? That is the real segment of things that piss me off but shouldn't, and that is people that are not original. Now, my favorite examples of this is the same examples I love using in any of these segments, which is customers. Because I love customers, whether I am one or whether I'm a worker. I love customers, just love them. But you see these kind of non-originality, which I know is not the word, but I'm going to use it anyway, with customers, with the things that they say that they think is original, they think is funny, they think is clever, they think that has not been said before, and they think the worker has not heard 1,000 times just that day. As an example, you pay in cash, $100 bill, and the cashier has to go through the process of checking the bill. Each store, I guess, has a different process of how they do it, but usually it's at the very least looking at it in the light and then marking it with a pen. And what do you hear all the time when a cashier's doing that? It better be real. Or they'll say, yeah, it's fine. I just made it this morning. That's not funny. That's not original. Maybe when the first person who came up with that joke said it, it was original and funny. But you know how long ago that was? And you know how many times that cashier's heard it that day alone? And because they're cashiers, they're supposed to like, ha ha ha, that's so funny. And then that idiot believes, wow, I'm so funny. I made a clever joke. I made that cashier laugh. The cashier's being fake. That's their job. You're not original. You're not funny. Put that away and get rid of it for good. Another one would be an item doesn't scan. Has no bar, or it does scan, but the barcode is saying it's unreadable or whatever. And what do you hear them say? It must be free. Must be free. Ha ha ha. Oh, I never heard that before. That's amazing. You're so original. This stuff is not original. And the crazy part is that nowadays, especially with social media and the internet and YouTube and every video going viral, how are people not aware that this is a thing? How are people not aware that this is said over and over and over again? I'm sure there's some kind of TikTok channel or Instagram channel, whatever, that is dedicated strictly to people complaining about customers and things that customers do and say. I'm sure there is. If there is, I would love to follow you because I'm sure I can relate to you. And this has to come up. So what is getting lost here? What is getting lost in the translation where people are believing that this is an original comment, and I'm sure you said it before. So you know how it's not original? Because you said it before. So it's not even original for you. Forget about everybody else. And you still say it, you believe it's funny, and you fall for the cashier who's giving you great customer service and laughing at it like it's so original, and you think, I'm going to go back to that again. No, you're not. And then someone like me comes along who is not good at fake laughing, who's not going to pretend that something's original. So maybe I'll smirk, but most of the time I'll just ignore it. And then the response I'll get is like, oh, wow, you must not have a sense of humor. No, I do. I've got a great sense of humor. That just wasn't funny. I've heard it 1,000 times today. Stop with the blah, lame lines. If you don't have something to say that's clever, say nothing at all. But at the very least, be original. I'll respect somebody who gives you a bad joke, but it's an original one that's thought on their own. I'd more respect for that than someone who just repeats something and believes it's funny. Get a life. Back to the show.
Oh, Brian. Oh, man. Couple things I want to mention real quick off the bat. Some notes I took down here. Number one, you said that I have tireless puns. And I wanted to mention that trains don't have tires. So there you go. Here's another one. Second up, I actually wrote it down here when you were saying
but
the first part.
Hold on. Zach, I said tireless.
Yes.
So trains are tireless, so it still works.
Yes, it does actually work. It works even better now. I actually wrote down on here, it must be free, when you were starting your segment, and then you said the exact thing I wrote down, which I find so funny. Listen, man, I gotta say...
That's the most common one. That's the most common
100%. I gotta say, I have been guilty of this before. Now, shame on me. You guys can email me at valueadded.zb@gmail.com and let me know how bad I messed up for doing this, but I have done that in the past. And I've also been on the receiving end. Unfortunately, I've worked a lot of customer service jobs. Here's the thing. If I had to choose between taking the 45-year-old balding guy with dad jokes or the snarky teenager or the attitudinal 87-year-old woman, I'll take the dad joke guy. All right, I'll take him, because at least he's not going to be complaining about everything under the sun. But yeah, I do get it. I've been on both sides of it. I definitely get it, and I will strive to do better.
That's fair. I guess my biggest problem with the whole thing, which may have been clear during the segment, may have not, is when they say it and believe that it's original.
Yeah, I know.
Like, if you know you're not being original, be like, I'm just being stupid.
And
then it's fine. But if you actually think it's original, then I feel sorry for you.
And let me comment on that point as well, because I have the hardest time in the world believing that anyone thinks that that's an original comment, whether you're online or not. I personally am not online very much. I do get online every now and again. I don't spend a lot of time on the internet. I've known that was old before I was old. Okay, so it's common knowledge. It's common knowledge. I don't think there's any secret.
You don't need to be online. Just be in a store before. I'm sure you've heard it.
I think probably it has to do with working customer service, because I have done so much customer service in my life. Maybe that's where I learned it, or I don't even know where I learned it. I just know I've known it for a very, very long time.
Yeah, but it's amazing to me how people react when they say it. And like, I know I'm supposed, when you're a worker, you're supposed to fake laugh, but there's only so much fake laugh that I can do, and it's just not funny. I'm sorry, it's not.
I think I'm gonna do this. Excuse my acting skills here, but next time that I go to buy something and it doesn't scan, I'm just going to get as dramatic as I can. What are we gonna do? How do we solve this problem?
I cannot figure out a solution here.
Just start freaking out because it doesn't have a barcode. Anyway, that would be at least original, I think. I haven't seen that one done very often.
I don't disagree with that. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Well, since we last left off with the train watching, I'm going to give you another one of my weird hobbies that's on my list that has to do with trains. This one is called train hopping. Have you heard of train hopping before, Brian?
I've heard of bar hopping.
Okay. Yeah, bar hopping is definitely, it's similar, right? You're going from one to the next, right? It's the same concept. So with train hopping, what you're doing, and let me just real quick say this right off the bat, I do not condone any of these behaviors. This is illegal in basically every state that I'm aware of. What you're doing at train hopping is you have a cargo train going past, you jump into the train as it's going past, and you ride the train to wherever it's going, you get off, you jump on the next one, you ride it, you get off, and you do all that while you're running away from home or whatever you may be doing in your life to lead you to that point. So that's train hopping. The reason it's included on this list is similar in the vein, well, the more than that, but it's similar in the vein of the cave diving regarding just the sheer danger that you're putting yourself in for minimal reward. Okay, in the case of most people train hopping, it's a lot of it has to do with excitement, the rush that comes with doing it, as well as possibly some kind of transportation need, which I doubt is the biggest reason. But maybe you just want to get to another part and the train's going that direction, and so you hop on the train. I get it. But the danger of it is incredibly high, okay? You missing your jump, you falling off too early, you getting underneath the tracks. One mistake leads to complete death. It's not like certain activities where you might get a paper cut. You mess this up, you're probably not going to be alive anymore. So take it with a huge grain of caution if any of you have ever done this or know anyone who has. I also will just reiterate the point that this is a very illegal activity. As far as I know, from every state that I'm aware of, it's illegal. So check your local ordinances before you jump on any trains. Thoughts, Brian?
I mean, I wonder if these people think that like they're in some kind of action movie.
Right.
You see this kind of stuff
Right.
in action movies where the badass guy like jumps on the train as it's moving, holds on to it with one hand, like climbs to the top, does all this badass stuff. But I mean, it's hard to qualify this as anything other than a silly hobby when it's also illegal. So the illegality right off the bat disqualifies this as anything other than silly, because there are some illegal things that if you don't get caught doing it, serves a benefit to you. Like stealing, for example. You steal something, you don't get caught stealing, now you have the thing that you have to pay for, you have to earn it, you kind of just took them from somebody else or someplace else, and now you have it. And now you can do something with it that could benefit you. It's illegal, and it should be, obviously, and the person who does it should get punished for it, but if you don't get caught, there's a benefit. This illegal activity, if you don't get caught, what benefit does it give you? Other than, like, you run away from home, but there's plenty of ways to run away from home that are not illegal. So what, if you go through from coast to coast, hopping on all these freaking trains, you don't get caught once. Okay, great. What benefit did that give you, other than, like, a thrill? Mm-hmm. So that makes it even more silly to me.
Yeah. I guess you get to start a whole new life in whatever state that you ended up in. Just good luck getting back. Okay, that's what I'll say about that. It's not going to be the smoothest ride. No pun intended. All right, we're going to move on to the next one here on my list. I am going to present this one to you, Brian. This one, I heard about it. Not only do I think it's weird, but I think I would like to join this one. Okay, you ready to hear it?
I mean, now especially after that little teaser.
It's called extreme ironing. All right. Now, as you may, sorry, you're taking a drink right now. As you may know from my perfectly ironed shirt right now, I'm very big on ironing. I think ironing is, a lot of times when I was a kid and I was arguing with my siblings, my parents would say, iron out your problems. So we did. We got the iron out. We just ironed out the problems. It was great.
Everybody calls you Iron Man.
Exactly. And I was a really big fan of Iron Man. Not that guy with the spacesuit. I'm talking about the guy who irons clothes for a living. I love Iron Man. So when I heard about extreme ironing, I found it very compelling. Now, here are some examples of what extreme ironing can be, Brian, because this hobby is actually really vast. It goes everywhere. Mountain climbing, height, and ironing. So these people will climb up extremely tall mountains. They'll bring the board with them. They'll bring the iron with them. Some sorts of electricity, or however they'll do the iron. Maybe some battery-powered iron or some solar panels, whatever they'll bring. And they will iron a shirt at the top of a mountain. Okay? There are people, and I don't know if they've done any underwater ones, but extreme climates, like out in the middle of a desert. They'll go into the middle of some sandy desert, baking sun in the middle of summer, and they'll iron a shirt. Or they'll go to the coldest parts of Alaska or something, and they'll iron a shirt there. And so these people are really doing some incredible work, I would say, and getting the wrinkles out of their clothes and ironing out their problems. What are your thoughts, Brad?
If you are somebody who has listened to this and you are determined to not judge any of this as silly, because you don't want to be that person, you don't want to be like me and Zach, I strongly challenge you to not find this silly. This is the epitome of silly. Why are you ironing at the top of a mountain? There's no point in doing that. Mountain climbing is different. I have a lot of respect for people who do that. Maybe you can argue that there's no point to it because once you get to the top of the mountain, what are you going to do? But people who like the adventures and all that and the thrill and everything. But adding the iron makes no sense. Like, you go from doing the most like rugged, manly thing, just taking out an ironing board and just
straighten them out, man.
Going across. And forget about the whole masculine, feminine thing. Like that was me being stupid. But in general, it seems to cause an extra hazard for you because you have the ironing board in addition to all the other stuff. And once you iron the shirt, what are you going to do with the shirt? Put it on? By the time it gets back down, it's going to be wrinkled because you're climbing down in a shirt. Or you're going to put it in your backpack, now it's wrinkled again because you have stuff in your backpack. So there's literally no point of doing this, which is the epitome of being a silly hobby. So there you go.
Yeah, look, I would say, at least, I'll give you a little bit of pushback regarding the whole no point in doing this. You can have nice ironed clothes while you're on the top of the mountain, right? You wouldn't have any wrinkles in your clothes at the top of that mountain. Maybe, actually, let me take this a step further.
For what, a picture?
There you go, exactly. Let's say you wanted a nice picture of you in a suit or something, or you in a really nice shirt, but it got wrinkled on the way up. Well, you brought the iron with you, didn't you? So now you get to iron it out. Also,
and people are supposed to believe that you climbed up a mountain in a suit.
Well, who knows? But yeah, this is definitely a weird hobby. Imagine going deep wood camping or something. You're just out in the middle of no man's land, and you just bring an ironing board with you to iron your clothes.
Right.
I don't get it, but look, let me tell you this. If you guys iron stuff out on the top of a mountain, send me a picture at valueadded.cb@gmail.com so we can see just how cool it was and share with us your experience, all right? Are you ready for the next one, Brian? We're going to move back off the mountain and into the realm of fantasy. Okay. Have you?
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Have you heard of LARPing, Brian?
I have.
You have heard of LARPing.
I
Have you participated in LARPing?
I have not.
No.
I even know what it stands for.
Okay, go. Please present what it stands for, so I'll present the rest.
LARP, live action role playing.
Yep. Live action role playing. So this one here is I'm on the fence about this being a weird hobby. Now, granted, I'm the one who put it on the list, but I'm on the fence because, in a way, I think that it's really cool for people to get in touch with their inner childhood and their sense of imagination and exploration, to explore the fantasy worlds that exist within your mind and try to make them a reality. I think that's interesting. That's kind of what we do with TV shows. It's what we do with books. It's what we do with all those different mediums. We try to get ourselves out of our situation. Now, the reason I decided to include it on the list anyways is because there are certainly some people who take this a bit too far, okay? You're not actually a knight from the medieval ages, but some people really get into character to a point where you're not even acting on a screen or something. You're with all these people and you're living your life as if you're these characters. I think... And I really hate to make this comparison. I might get some people giving me some hate for this, but LARPing and the furry community are kind of intertwined in a sense because the dress-up aspect, the fantasy aspect, and everyone's plenty well aware that people use the whole furry thing as an identity at this point, rather than just a hobby, something you do on the side. So it has some downstream effects, is what I'm saying. And I think for that reason, and maybe some more, it's a weird hobby to have.
I lean more towards the former reaction you had. I don't think it's that weird, mainly for the reasons that you articulated. I couldn't even have worded it any better. The other ones that we talked about before are solo activities. I'm certainly not, more than anyone else, I'm in no position to judge somebody for doing something while being alone or solo, because that's how I live most of my life. But in the case of LARPing, it's a way to, beyond what you were saying about the imagination, inner child, and all that. You get a sense of community, because people who also like to LARP and like living in that world are now joined with you, and now you have a community. Now you have friends. Maybe they're not your close friends. Maybe they're just friends for the LARPing experience. But right off the bat, you guys know you have something in common and something big, something important. You don't have to tiptoe and say, well, if I bring this up, am I going to get judged? Am I going to get looked at weirdly? Am I going to get criticized? You know that you're not, because they're all in this together. And this is true with a lot of things. When people find their little niche and they find a group of people who like the same thing, it's easy to get caught up in that. It's very easy to gravitate to that, because that's a place that you feel like you can be you. So I'm all for that. Not me personally doing LARPing, but I'm all for people LARPing, and if it brings them that kind of camaraderie, then I say good. And so I'm not labeling this one as a silly hobby.
Okay, fair enough. And like I said, every point that you just brought up is the reason why I was on the fence, because I agree with all those aspects. It really comes down to the downstream effects and the people who take it who are into it a little bit too much, and it affects their ability to live and lead normal, productive lives. That's where that's why I would put this on here. But to be fair, you could really honestly say that about any hobby, even the most basic hobbies.
For sure, yeah.
If you become,
it can be addictive. It could be
Yeah,
addictive.
it can become addictive. It can become the point where it goes overboard. I know one of your favorite hobbies, Brian, for example, is scratch offs. You've mentioned that before.
100%. Yes, love those scratch offs.
All right.
But even in the case of where you don't live a normal productive life, if you don't live a normal productive life because of the LARPing, but you're still okay with not living a normal productive life, and it's not, really negatively affecting somebody else. I don't mean in the way of just like, oh my god, I can't believe I live next to this guy. That's so weird. Like that, I'm not talking about that. Like if you're not actually like affecting people in a negative way, and the only quote unquote negative is your life is not normal and productive, whatever that means. But you don't have a problem with that, and you're still objectively happy in the life that you're living, then it's still not a problem because you're fine with the not being the normal, productive status quo. And so, again, all the power to you.
Okay. All right, fair enough. I am going to transition us into the next one. And speaking of things that aren't necessarily productive, have you heard of competitive eating, Brian?
I have.
You have.
Yes.
Okay. Basically, the first thing that comes to my mind is the age-old hot dog eating competitions, right?
4th of July.
Which they're a classic. They're a classic thing. But regarding hobbies, if one of your hobbies is to just go to all of these places and do these eating competitions, I don't even know where to really approach this one, where to begin with my opinion on it. I think it's odd. It's odd in the sense of, think about something like this, right? Let's say that you're fencing. You love fencing, right? So you could go around bragging to everyone, I'm a great fencer. I'm great at fencing. Who's going to care if you say that I'm great at eating hot dogs? Like, that's not really something that's... What bragging rights do you get from saying you can eat 12 hot dogs back to back? Yeah, there's the competitions. Go ahead.
Yeah, Zach, sorry, real quick. That doesn't mean you're great at eating hot dogs. That doesn't mean you can eat a lot of them.
Yes.
Like, great at eating hot dog implies that there's a certain skill and everyone else is doing it wrong, but you're doing it in a better way. Mm-hmm. You're eating it the same way. If anything, you could argue you're doing it in a worse way. But, yeah. You being the hot dog eating champion does not mean you're better eating hot dogs than everyone else. It just means that you can eat a lot more than everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So there's that, and then this one, I know I put this on here for competitive eating. Actually, I just put that as a blanket topic. So yes, included in this would be things like eating things that aren't food. I don't remember where I saw this, but this guy was eating light bulbs. People who eat rocks, people who eat different random inanimate non-food items, which obviously is dangerous in its own right, but also quite strange. Again, what purpose do these things serve other than just really odd entertainment? And that's kind of where my perspective is on it.
I mean, the eating the rocks and the light bulbs, I mean, that can't be safe for you.
I didn't think either.
I mean, I know the body's more resilient than we realize. Just because you look on WebMD and it tells you that because you cough, you're going to die. The body's more resilient than you realize. But, like, eating rocks is like asking for a kidney stone. Eating light bulbs is asking for something to get ruptured. Mm-hmm. I just forget about the fact that, like, it has no nutritional value or it's not food or anything like that. It just seems like it's something that has no benefit and multiple negatives.
Okay. Well, so we're in a bad spot because I've ran out of what I have here, but I have one bonus one on here, and I just want to get your thoughts on it real quick. I just thought of it, and I want to get your opinion because we're talking about competitive eating. Have you heard of competitive knitting, where two people? Have you heard of this?
Oh my!
Have you?
No, but that sounds like watching grass grow.
I watched this video, man, and these people, they were sitting across from each other. They was in this like studio room, a really nice studio room. These people were sitting across from each other, and man, they were just going at it, man. That their hands were moving so fast they couldn't even keep up. They were doing competitive knitting, and they were talking while they were doing it. So it was almost like it's just motor control while it was doing. It was honestly fascinating to watch. I would still say it's weird. It's a weird hobby, but impressive. An impressive weird hobby.
I don't even think that'd be impressive to watch. Or fascinating to watch. Like I said, it reminds me of a show. It was some kind of dinosaur show. I forgot the name of it. It might have been called Dinosaurs, actually. It was back in the 90s. It was like not animated. It was kind of live action, but it was before they had live action. So the picture was very unique. the father, like of the main family, dinosaur family, he watched grass growing on TV, like literally watching grass grow. There was 2 announcers, as if it was like a sporting event, and like they were like, "Man, the grass is really growing today," you know. And you know, the play-by-play guy brought on the analyst. The analyst gave all these stats, and he said, "Let's watch." And they turned, and then they panned to the grass, and then you just watched the grass, and nothing happened, and it started growing a little bit. The reason I bring that up is because that is what I would think of when I'm watching competitive knitting. Watching. Now, competing in it, who knows? If you like knitting and you're good at it and you can fly through it, maybe you get some kind of thrill out of it, but find something else to do. I mean, I don't know what... And the knitting itself does have a purpose. I would imagine whatever you knit, you know, you can wear or give to somebody else. But why is that? Why is it to be competitive? I mean, is it just your juices for competition are so strong, but you have no athletic ability, so you just do knitting?
I guess so. I did find it interesting. Any of these weird hobbies that people have that involve any type of skill, I do personally find interesting enough to, I don't know, give it 30 seconds of my time to look at. Like this here, I don't think I'll ever go back and watch another competitive knitting competition, but the little short bit that I saw of it, interesting enough. And I think, you know, because we're at the end of the episode here, I'll just share kind of some of my thoughts about hobbies in general. Hobbies don't have to serve a purpose. They don't have to serve a purpose. They don't have to make you money. They don't have to better the world necessarily. Hobbies can be really whatever you want them to be, and that's okay. But there are lines that you have to be aware of, like legality. You have to consider things like danger for the hobbies that you're doing. And you also have to consider whether or not those hobbies should be kept well behind locked, closed doors, okay? You might not want to tell everybody that you collect wet specimens, for example, even if it's legal, okay? It should be kept well in your basement, only for your closest friends to discover.
And really close, yes.
Very close friends. Hopefully they're still close after you show them, but who knows? So yeah, you can really have whatever hobbies you want. Obviously, Brian, me and you have a hobby that we share together, which is the Value Added Podcast. As a hobby, you know, we're not doing this to make money. We don't make money off of this show, at least not yet. But we can, of course, if you guys subscribe to the Value Added Podcast and tell your friends. In any case, we don't make money off of it, so it's not a job. This is more a way for, this is, in my opinion here, this is more of a way for us to stay in touch, for us to discuss topics that we find interesting with each other, and to, you know, kind of rope the audience in with us, so that way we can have a bigger, larger conversation and expand everyone's collective understanding of various things.
Yeah, we talked about this in one of the episodes. It might have been like the 100th episode or whatever, like why we, what our favorite thing on the podcast, and we both shared the same kind of thought, that it was a way for us to keep in touch, a way for us to guarantee that we would be in touch. Otherwise, despite what people always say, we know how it would work out. It would fade away eventually. So yeah, I mean, this is our hobby that we share. We both have hobbies individually that go beyond this, but this is a hobby for sure, and I'm not even going to determine whether or not it's silly or not. I'm going to let you, the audience, decide that.
Okay. Well, we have a little bit of time left, Brian. How would you feel about sharing a personal hobby of yours for the judgment of the internet?
Reading. There you go. That's my personal hobby.
Okay. I will share a personal hobby of mine. This is a hobby that I've put way too little time in, and I've really wanted to put more time in, and so recently I've been putting a little bit more time into it, which is learning to play piano. I have no real reason to do so. I just love that instrument. It is my favorite instrument, is the piano. I love piano music. So, and my daughter's also showing a little bit of interest in it, so I am trying to learn how to play piano, how to do a couple basic songs, helping to teach her how to play some basic songs. And it's a fun hobby to do. I think it's fun and challenging in a way, and I think it teaches you discipline and consistency, which honestly, for any skill-based thing, consistency wins out. So there's a little random advice with Zach on an episode where you guys didn't get any. So that is a good one, and maybe if you get good enough after enough practice, you can
perform for us live on the Value Added Podcast.
Yeah, that won't happen, but you guys know what will happen. We will have a new episode every Friday at 8 a.m. for you guys here on the Value Added Podcast. So
good job. You got it.
Make sure that you guys stick around and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of our future uploads. You can catch us on YouTube, Spotify, and maybe many more platforms in the future. Who knows? We might expand out the what is the term? Your horizon. Wait, the world's your oyster. What was it? What is it, Brian? Come on, help me out here.
I think you. Yeah, I think
it's the world's your oyster. Okay, yeah, the world's your oyster. Whatever.
One of those expressions that make no sense.
Exactly. So yeah, reach out to us at valueadded.cb@gmail.com. Of course, you can also reach out in the comment section on YouTube or Spotify. Let us know your thoughts of the episode and things you want to see in the future. We'd appreciate your feedback. That's going to be all for us today. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.